Yeah, branded, variety, and color are required to fill out, but lot number this year might be a good idea. I know due to the drought last year, we got some lower production on seed, especially corn. Having some issues with 2-year-old seed. I've heard some rumors with some seed dealers, and might have some bad germ issues. So if we are documenting where that lot number is, and after the corn comes up, we have some issues with bad germ, we might get some money back if we can prove that's where that lot number is pointed. So.
And this once again comes back to garbage in, garbage out. This might be an optional thing for you guys, but in the end it might end up paying you back just to input it anyway.
That issue I had once where I had several hybrids and then on different farms but the same hybrid showing up, and then I screwed up and I had the same color because I had to add a new hybrid. Then I had it didn't delineate or differentiate between the two because they're the same color. I mean, it can happen with only 6 colors.
Yep, and that's a good point. You might have, say, 20 varieties that you're using, but yeah, like Kurt pointed out, we do only have the option of 6 different colors. So if you are planting 2 different varieties, just kind of keep in mind that if you're going to be painting a map, try and make sure you differentiate the color. And when I say we only have 6 different colors, that doesn't mean you can't use every variety that you have. We just have to maybe take one variety away that's, say, assigned to yellow. We're done with that one for the time being. We might have to take that away and add the variety we do want to use. But good point, Kurt.
So this is what we were talking about earlier with the 6 colors that will come up on your dashboard. As you can see, X and A are right here. If we had another hybrid that was, say, the color blue, it would show up there as well. And then you go down here to assign variety to rows. And this is where we assign a variety to the rows that we want it to produce. And in the center fill, you can do 50-50. In a box planter, you can actually assign them by the row. Not that you'd ever want to plant 6 varieties at one time, but the option's there. And next we come to some myths, or our swath control and section control. And we want you guys to make small adjustments at a time, tenths of a second, because we don't want to overshoot our target one way or the other.
Yeah, just like diagnosing any other problem, if we go at, say, half second or big jumps, we could just as easily overshoot it in the opposite direction than what we currently are. And also, if we make big jumps, it's hard to tell if we're headed in the right direction. So we highly suggest a 1/10 or 2/10 increment changes, and then that at least lets you know if you're on the right track.
Another thing is, if this screen looks a little unfamiliar to you, it's because it's from the 2630, and the screen does not look like this on the 2600. On the 2630, we actually have an extra step where we have to go to turn on-off settings through section control, whereas on the 2600, you just go to your swath control.
That's what yeah, Chris.
Back on that cutoff time, what's a good number to start with?
And we'll address that. People ask us every year to give us the magic number, and like I've said in the other sessions, that is the one guarantee that I will give you from the Horizon Integrated Solutions Department, is that we will not give you the magic number. So depending on the application, give us a shout and we can give you a good time to start with. You know, generally for planning, I like to start around, say, 1 second for turn on and about a half to 0.6 seconds to turn off. But as Lucas is going to touch, I'm not going to stand behind those numbers, or we're not going to guarantee you those numbers are going to be the magic numbers. And also, like Lucas pointed out, this does look a little bit different. That's why if you are running a 2600 and a 2630 in the same operation, you'll notice on that soft key, the 2630 will say section control and the 2600 will say swath control. The reason, it is a little bit confusing, but the reason they kept different terminology is because the software is different. On a 2630, it is capable of looking at multiple section control points and fine-tuning it by operation, where we cannot do that with the 2600. So that's the basis of why the screens look a little bit different.
And next we come again to digging. It's the only foolproof way to check yourself, so we ask that you guys dig.
You guys will notice that's kind of a common theme of the day. You know, with the planter guys said the same thing. But that's how we're going to verify that turn on and turn off number. We can start with those suggested numbers that we mentioned here, but we're going to ask you to, number one, pick a consistent in and out speed for your end rows, and then get out and dig. And we're not just asking you to do that in the beginning when you set up those times, but also get out just periodically and dig and see if it is doing what you want it to be doing.
How much is it gonna change if you're going 4.5, and then it looks like rain, you go to 5.5?
Your planning speed, you can change that because that's just going to affect the dynamics of what the
But
planner
it's gonna change your on-off.
Really, what's important there, now granted, when you're coming into point rows, it's going to affect it a little bit, but that's not as critical as when you're coming in and out of the end rows. So even if you got to speed up your planning speed, if you could keep, say we do 3.5 when we turn around to set it up, if we could keep that, the turnaround time, that's where it's really critical. Because when we're doing the point rows, the system does, say 2 rows at a time as we come across the planner, but when we're coming into those square end rows, we're doing the whole planner at that time, and that's where we'll see those big gaps.
So next we're going to push our turn on off settings, and that's where we get our screen where we can alter our times. You also see at the bottom this little question mark, and this is on the 2630s. And this will bring up a little help tab. And you can press this button highlighted in green at the bottom, and it'll bring you to a help tab that gives you some common problems and the solution.
So
This is just a little reminder for us at the beginning of the year to kind of get our minds back in that frame of how to use this piece of technology. And then we come to some common myths of swath control. And the first one is speed does not affect swath control. Speed does affect your swath control as you're coming in and out of the headlands.
No, we were asked in one of the other sessions a really good point. If there's any way to make a connection or see how your speed does affect these times, and there is a tool on Stellar Support for that. It doesn't directly tie it to the turn on and turn off times that you're using, but it will tell you how, I think it's broken down into tenths of a mile an hour, how many feet you're covering per second at those speeds. So that is a good tool to kind of get your mind thinking the right way about how much ground we're covering at different speeds.
And next we come to our next myth, and that is that swath control measures off distance. This is false. It measures off time, as we were discussing in the question above. And we come again to digging. You can figure out your time without digging. No, you're going to have to dig. Some guys think that they can check or figure it out by looking at their clutches. Just dig. It's more sure.
I take a lot of phone calls every year where guys trying to gauge on what the planner's doing based off of what their documentation is showing them, or they look out the back window and they think they can see when the shaft stops turning the meter. Even as good as you may be, as good as your eyesight may be, we still have that human reaction time in there. There's still some things happening that we don't see. So like Lucas has touched on a couple times, the only way to truly know is to get out and verify that seed's where we want it.
That could be a good job for an intern, a good learning.
Yeah, they're going to be excited after that.
And our last one is you can adjust swath timing to compensate for bad measurements. This is also false. Bad measurements can alter so many different things throughout the receiver. So we just ask that you do try to measure as best you can.
Ultimately, no matter how good the technology is, the baseline is our measurements, and our systems are only as good as what we tell them to start with.